Hi there, my name's Paul, aka Avon in BBS circles and also known as the Mystic Guy. Thank you for watching. This is the second video in a series looking at how you can set up Mystic BBS on your Raspberry Pi. And also by popular demand I've put back the War Games desktop Shall We Play a Game, because I had some feedback about that in the first video. So if you haven't seen that movie, check it out. It was a cool movie in the 80s. Rightio, on we go. We're jumping into the Mystic directory that we installed Mystic in last time, and I'm going to go into the configuration editor again, which is this setting here, /mystic space little switch sign CFG, and that gets us into setting things up. First thing we're going to do is jump into the configuration menus and head to general settings, and we want to change a few things in this. Firstly, the bulletin board needs a name. It's no longer going to be called New Mystic BBS. I think for this demo we'll call this one Alpha 1 BBS. The SysOp name, I put my handle in, Avon, and that was the user that we set up in the previous video, and feedback also to Avon. The other things I like to do on this screen is set the chat logging to yes, so that if you do have a conversation with somebody as a SysOp, then it will log the conversation. Your hours of chat could be anywhere from 0 to 24. It's up to you how you want to set that, and that's pretty much all I'll do on that screen. Press escape to jump out, and then what we are going to do next is just go through and have a quick look at these new user settings. Basically you want to go with pretty much the default setup. If you don't like USA phone format, you can set that to no. For these two fields, start message group, I set that to 1, and also the file group to 1, and that will become more obvious shortly. The next one I go into is new user settings 2, and this is really the kind of questions that somebody signing up for the bulletin board would be asked. Usually most people just run with the defaults. You might want to change the date layout depending on which part of the world you're in. Here I tend to like day, month, year, but if you're in the States you might like it the other way around. Otherwise everything else is good to go. And under the optional fields you can set up a number of custom questions to ask. There's one here called reference. I usually just set that to no. We also want to go into file-based settings, and we'll come to the reasons for this later, but for now just set upload dupe scan to current. And then under message-based settings, a few things to change here. First thing is to go down to add ANSI prefix and set that to yes. And also under default origin, instead of New Mystic BBS, you want to put your bulletin board name in, Alpha 1 BBS, and over on create semaphore, change that from logout to message post. What this is going to allow us to do is when somebody posts a message on our bulletin board, Mystic is going to send that message away within about 60 seconds off through the internet, rather than waiting until the person logs out. Personally I like it this particular way, rather than slowing the process down. So that's a kind of a personal decision. Now the next thing we're going to do is we are going to introduce a few concepts, and let me just bring this screen up here so you can have a look at it. So, few things. Firstly, we're going to be working with FSXNet, which is the Fun Simple Experimental Network, and FSXNet uses what's called Zone 21. Now if you're not familiar with FIDO technology addressing, the syntax is that you have a zone followed by a colon, followed by a network number, / your node number, and sometimes after that a full stop and a point number. So a typical address might look like this: 21:1/155.3. To be honest, most times that 0.3 wouldn't be there. The average address is usually just 3 fields: zone, net, and node. Now we'll be connecting to the FSXNet hub, of which there are about 4 at the time of the recording of this video, but we're going to use the Net1 hub, and its address is there, 21.1.100. The host to poll is agency.bbs.nz:24556. That's the port number we need to connect on. And we have a session password which is very easily called "let me in" capital letters. Case is important here. You'll see the node address for the system we're going to set up shortly is a kind of default address that new nodes connecting to FSXNet fly. So this is your address initially, but if you join the network then you would be allocated your own unique node number. And we also have a session password and what's called a tick password. More details on that later. Again, let me in. So you've got some useful links here, Mystic BBS, the website, the wiki, which is, I admit, a work in progress, but still well worth having a look at. On a website that I run, bbs.nz, there will be details about FSXNet, and the info pack if you want to download it and find out more is there. Over here on the right of your screen, just a few tips. Firstly, we're working with Linux, so my suggestion is use lowercase file names for everything. It means ultimately if you want to migrate Mystic between other operating systems like Windows, from Linux to Windows or vice versa, you can do it with much greater ease. So keep everything lowercase. Case does matter in Linux. If you haven't used it much, there's a difference between a capitalized file name and a lowercase file name. They are two different things in Linux. Also, if you're installing stuff on the Raspberry Pi, just check that the Pi's got both the files zip and unzip installed, those programs at least. I've found in previous installs with Pis, sometimes it doesn't have zip installed, and if it's missing, it can trip you up when it comes to bundling up messages you're trying to export out of your bulletin board and off to a message hub. And finally, if you do have questions, feel free to either post it in FSXNet when you're hooked up, or simply just leave a comment in the video concerned and we'll try and respond to you there. So with that said, let's go back to this screen, and what we're going to be doing is taking a look at the echomail address field to start with, which I'm just trying to get access to. The first field, this is where we as a bulletin board specify our address in the network. And this first field you leave alone because that for some reason needs to stay as a local address, so don't touch that. But the second one, if we press enter on this, we can now set up our address in FSXNet. So we're at zone 21, we're in network 1, and our node number is 999. The point number we don't need to worry about. The domain name is FSXNet. The description, which is cosmetic, but I'll just keep it the same. And because this is our first network, it is the primary network. Only one of the networks you subscribe to can be primary. It really doesn't matter which, but if it's the first one you set up, just set it for that. And then for other network addresses that you get assigned, just put them in these other fields. So if you do get a node number later, you just need to go back in here and probably change this field, and it'll be a different number, and you may get to change your net number as well, but the zone will stay the same. Now we've got that set up, we want to create what's called an echomail node, and this is going to be the entry in the system that allows us to set up how we connect to the hub, how we poll to the hub. So to do that, down the bottom here you'll see that it says / for command list. So if I press the / key, that's funny, I just brought up the search option, you'll see that it comes up with a menu here that allows us to do a bunch of things, and we're going to insert an entry and then press enter on that to start setting up our echomail node. We want to make this active, and the description for this is the FSXNet hub, and we'll call this net 1 because there is a number of hubs. Sysop is Avon, which is yours truly, I run that one. The address is 21.100 and the domain is FSXNet. To connect to it, we're going to be using what's called the BINC-P protocol, which is a kind of, look it up on Wikipedia or on the net, but BINC-P is kind of a dedicated protocol from FidoNet days that allow you to send traffic across the internet on a de facto port. The default port is 24556. We are going to archive these. The export type, just set that to crash. That effectively means send it quickly. Root info, you need to type 21:* and this is to do with how private messages are sent around the network. More about that in another video. Then what you want to do is just page down, and the second page we don't set a packet password. There we are. but what we do want to set is a tick password, let me in capital letters, and then page down again, and we don't touch anything here, and this is the other screen we want, which is where we set up some details that you'll recall we saw before over here. So I'll try and bring these both up on the screen at the same time. Is it going to do it for me? No. Okay, well, I'll just quickly show you that. So what we're trying to plug in is this information here, and I will just set that up now. So our host name is agency, lowercase, agency.bbs.nz colon 24556. That's really important. We'll use IPv4 polling. My password is let me in capital letters. Those two fields stay the same, and just set both of these to yes for now, and we'll escape out of there. So at that point we've now set up some information about what our address is and the system we're going to poll when we send messages to. I'd like you then to step over to editors and go into message group editor. And what we can do is we can set up a number of groups of messages, which will become obvious shortly, but we need to give it a couple of labels. So the first one is to change the default name to FSXNet, and we will say a security level of 10 to access that, which is the default new user security level, and then / to open up a command list and insert a new group, and group 2 we're going to call local, and we'll also say that can be security level of 10. Now the reason I do that is because if you go into the message base editor, you'll see that the default version of Mystic ships with a couple of or 3 bases. One is email. Now don't think that this is email as you and I know it on the internet. This is effectively internal messages on your bulletin board between users. So if I was logged into your board and I sent a message to the sysop yourself, you would be reading it as email in this base. And if I call that up, you'll see there's a whole bunch of fields here, and we'll have a look at them shortly, but just note that the base type is local. It's not going anywhere other than your bulletin board. And that's all I want to show you on that screen. Now there's also 2 others here that have been created, and again these are bases that are both local, so other than the fact that they've got a different name, most of the settings on this screen are fairly similar. I'm going to step out of there and use the command list, the / key, to insert a new base, and this base we're going to set up for FSXNet. So the first thing we need to do is give it a name. So this is the message base name that we are setting for one of the bases. So we'll call this, and this is a name within the network, chat, testing, and more. That's kind of like a, as the name implies, a general area for talking. The base type I want you to change to echomail, and then I want you to go down to echo tag, and in capitals, which is important, type in FSX_gen. And the file name we will do the same, but we'll keep it lowercase. Now just roll with this because more will be explained shortly, but for the list access we're going to set a security, whoops, do that again, push the wrong button. We're going to set a security level S10, and we're going to say group 1. For read access it's also S10 G1. For posting it's S20 G1, and to access this base as a system operator as a sysop it's S255 G1. So remember last time we talked about the various security levels, and they were set up here under the security level. So what we're effectively saying is that in order to read this message, or at least see this base, you've got to be security level 10 and a member of group 1, which is the FSXNet group on your bulletin board. To read it, it's the same. To post to it, you've got to be a validated user. To be a sysop access with other bells and whistles, you've got to have that level of security. Our net address we want to change to 21999, and this is important. You want to go into export to, you press enter, and then you press the / key to insert, and you're choosing the one echomail node that we've set up. So now you'll see that it's on that list, and if I escape out, it's now exporting to one node. Now what that means is when you post a message in this message base, and because it's an echomail type base, which means that it's kind of like a public message board, anything that gets posted in there is going to be exported and sent to other bulletin boards that are also connected to this echomail area, and they're all sharing the same tag. So as message packets fly around, they're tagged with FSXGen, they get imported and they land in the respective message bases. But most importantly, we know that this, when the export process is happening, messages are going to be exported to this particular node, which is sending it off to the hub. And you can see you can add more nodes in there as well, but for now you just want to be able to export it to the hub, and likewise the hub will send stuff to you. On the other side of the screen, other than colors, it's up to you how many messages you want to store in your base. Hard drive space is pretty cheap these days, so you might as well either go crazy and do something like 50,000. Personally, if it's me, I set these to both 0. I don't care. I would rather just have all the messages forever and a day. But if you want, let's just say for this argument's sake, we'll go 50,000 and at least a year. So when overnight maintenance is run, if there are messages that fall outside that parameter, then they're going to be purged from your bulletin board. The only other things I'd change are you've got to consider whether the base, the message network you're joining allows real names or is happy just to use aliases. FSXNet's fine for aliases. The only time you need your real name is in the node list. So that sets to no. And allow ANSI artwork, then I would say yes, because all of FSXNet message bases allow ANSI artwork. And there we have the first of our message bases created. Now you recall I set these ones to group 1, but I forgot to go through and set the general messages and the test messages to group 2. So I will just go in quickly and set these as group 2. And I'll show you what that does in a second when we log into the bulletin board. Right, let's just can out of there for a minute, and this time round I'm just going to run Mystic with a -L for a local login. I'm logging in as myself, my password's 1234, I don't care for invisible login. No, I'll just show you this. So when you sign up initially, you are presented with a message that you can customize within the bulletin board. I'll show you where that message is right now actually. So if we go into Mystic, and from memory it's in data. I might be wrong on this actually, I'm trying to remember where it is. New letter, oh yeah, it is, it's in data and it's called new letter text. So this file here you can customize to your heart's content, and you put in the text that is shown to somebody when they sign up, save it as newletter.txt in the Mystic data directory, and that is presented to the user when they log in. I'm going to delete that by pressing D and saying yes, so I don't see that next time I'm logged in. Now if we go into the message menu, you'll see that there's a number of options here, but I just want to draw your attention to the idea of groups. So if I go J for joining a group, this is where the two groups that we set up start to come into play, and you'll see that at the moment it says that there is one message area set up in group 1 and there are 2 in group 2. So if I go into group 2, down the bottom of the screen it's showing that I'm in the local group and I'm in the general messages area. And I can use the A key to change an area, so it shows me I've got these 2 message bases in the area called local up here. If I want to though, I can also join group 1, and now I've got the one message base here that allows me to read or post or whatever to. There's no other areas to choose from because only one's been defined. So if I was to post something now, I'd go P for post. I can say something, I'm going to send it to all. We'll say hello world. And we get a nice little message editor here. Hi there, this is my first post from the Alpha 1 BBS. I'm watching, I don't know why I'm saying this out loud, the Mystic Guy videos. And then you'll see at the top of the screen here it says escape, press escape for menu. So if you press the escape key, you get a nice menu that pops up, and you've got options here. So obviously we want to ultimately save the message, or if I wanted to I could continue on. Another trick is the / key will also bring up this editor, this menu command. So I'm going to save the message, and if I go and press R for read the message, you'll see that I've got one message here, hello world by Avon, and just to point out at the top here it says status local. When this message is exported you're going to see that it says sent, but you can also see it's a Raspberry Pi system. The origin is set with the bulletin board name and the unique address of this particular node in the network. Now, how we get the messages out I'm going to save for another video, but before we finish I just want to show you something which I think will save you a lot of time when it comes to setting up messages. In the Mystic directory you will find a program called MUTIL, which we will be using, actually we'll use that in this video. But it comes with an ini file which looks like this. This is like a configuration file. And Mystic Utility is like a Swiss Army knife. There's so many different functions that you can call and different things that you can do, and here they all are. And in this ini file there is a kind of a general stanza which allows you to turn on or off the various functions you want to run. And further on, other than setting some logging features, then you get the various individual stanzas that allow you to set some of the features for the function that you actually want to run. Now there is a function in here, and we'll be looking at a couple of them. Actually we're going to be looking at more than that, but to start with I draw your attention to this one called import FSXNET.NA, and you say to yourself, what is that? So let me show you. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just minimize all these and call up my trusty browser on the Raspberry Pi. And once I'm here, I want you to download a copy of the FSXNet info pack. So we go to bbs.nz/FSXNet.zip. And it downloads the file. Now if I open that up, you'll see that it's created the zip file in the downloads directory. I'm going to double click on that, and I'm going to choose to extract all that, and I'll just stick it in a folder of its own called FSXNet, which it can now do. Now if I look inside this folder, there's a whole bunch of files that you can read at your leisure, but there is one in here called FSXNET.NA, and if I open that up for you to have a look at, it is a formatted file that contains the unique tag for each of the message bases and the description of the base. And so what we can do is we can use Mystic to actually create our message bases for us, or we can use Mystic Utilities at least, and use this file to help set things up. So I am going to copy this file and just put it in the Mystic directory for now, and hopefully it's in there. Not yet. I'll just pause the video and make sure I get the file there. A few seconds have passed. I've now pasted the .NA file into the Mystic directory. The next thing I'm going to do is I've prepared a file which I will put up as a link for you on this video, so look for it in the description below. But I've got a file called import.na.ini, which I'm also going to put into the Mystic directory, hopefully. And there it is. Now if we have a look inside this ini file, what I've done is I've tidied up the original MUTIL ini, and I've cleared out a lot of the functions that we don't want, but I've left two in there. So this file enables quick importing and configuration of both message and file bases for FSXNet. It's assuming you're using the default address of 21.1.999 and that you're using a Raspberry Pi or Linux OS. So let's talk about what it does. If we go into the general stanza, you'll see that it's saying either import the FSXNET.NA file, or there's an equivalent one for setting up file bases. Those are both set to false at the moment, so I'm now going to switch on the import FSXNET.NA. So we'll need to save this file. The next thing it does is it allows us to define a directory if we want to where this mystic.dat file is. Just leave that commented because we're going to be running from within Mystic directory. The log file is called mutil.log and sits in a directory under Mystic called logs, and that will appear here when it's run. The logging caching is set to true. The level of logging is set to debug. I recommend that because it really helps you figure out what's gone wrong. I've set the logging type to 2, so it's going to roll the logs by days and keep 7 days worth of logs, and each log is going to be this size in kilobytes, and then it's going to create another one if it needs to. So that's the general stuff that happens regardless of what function you're being called, or calling at least. Then we get on to the function itself. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set the file name, and case again is important. So you see I've got it set as uppercase, and it's assuming it's in the Mystic directory. We're converting any tags in the message bases to lowercase, and then I'm setting for each message base that gets set up, the net address is this, the security is or this, the maximum number of messages I've set at 10,000. Maybe I should have set it at 50, but I'll just leave it for that for now. And then I've also got some other settings here that relate to whether signatures can be used, real names, and so on. Further down is details about how to import the file bases, and I'm not going to get into that this video because we're just worrying about messages. So let's save that and then close out of here, and I will then call up a command menu, and if we clear the screen and just look at the files that are in here, so we've got this file, this executable called MUTIL, which if I just run it without any other commands, you'll see that it says no processes configured. So in other words, it's looking for a configuration file of some shape or form. So in this case I'm going to run /mutil import.na.ini. Now if everything goes according to plan, you'll see that it's run, and because we were creating, I think there were 6 message bases at the time of this video, one of them we'd already created, so it suddenly created 5 other message bases for us. Shall we go have a look and see what that looks like? So if I run the configuration side of things, go into editors, go into message base editor, suddenly I now have all my other message bases set up. I do need to check some things though, and that is, although it's gone ahead and created a few additional little bits and bobs which we didn't fill out in the first one, the key thing that's missing, and will catch you out if you don't set up, is that the export to is not set. You can't do that when you run that stanza. You have to manually go through and actually attach it to the hub that you're exporting to. Also, it's not allowing us to set the ANSI to yes like we did for the previous one. And let's just say, for argument's sake, we want to change those maximum number of messages from 10,000 up to 50,000 like we did for the one we set up. So how do you do it in an easy way, I hear you say? I've got an answer. What you do is you escape out, and at this point you use the tab key to tab all of the message bases that you want to change globally. Once you've done that, you use the / key to call up a command list and you choose global. Now you see a screen that allows you to start to set different things across all of these different bases. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to turn on yes, and we're going to add an exported echo node, which will be the 211100 hub. We're going to turn on allow ANSI and set that to yes. And we're going to turn on the maximum number of messages and instead set that to 50,000. Now at the top of the screen here you see it says Control U to update. So if I go Control U, it will update 3 settings per base. I say yes, and in a blink of an eye all of those bases are now set to export to the hub. ANSI is set to yes, maximum messages are set to 50,000. It's a pretty cool trick, it's worth knowing, and it'll save you heaps of time, so use it. Okay, so that is all for this video. We've gone for just over half an hour and I feel like I've talked and talked and talked. But the next video we're going to be talking about how to get a message or two that we've posted out of the bulletin board and off to the hub, and some more tips and tricks there as well. Thanks as always for watching. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel if you are enjoying what you see. Until next time, bye for now.